Hey everybody, so I want to talk about chapter 2 in Douglas Kelly's Creation and Change. Chapter 2 is called Interpretation and Outline of the first three chapters of Genesis. So in this chapter, Dr. Kelly is basically trying to answer two questions. The first question is, what genre of literature is Genesis? So if you're a pastor or you're a small group leader, um, or you're teaching a Bible study in your home and you want to go through the book of Genesis, it's very important to know what genre the book of Genesis is. And so that's the first question that he's trying to address in this chapter. The second is, what is the basic outline of Genesis? So when a pastor goes to preach a book of the Bible, generally he'll look and see the structure of the book, especially if he's going to preach through the whole book. What is the structure of Genesis? So those are the two questions that Dr. Kelly is seeking to answer in this chapter. And so we'll go with the first question. What type of literature is Genesis? What genre of literature is it? Now, some have suggested that Genesis 1 through 11, or specifically Genesis 1 through 3, are kind of like poetry. And Kelly's arguing that no, they're not poetry, that actually Genesis 1 through 11 and the rest of the book is chronological history. And one evidence given for this is work done by Stephen Boyd, who's a Hebraist. And actually, I posted a video from Is Genesis History, the channel on YouTube. Hey, son. I love you too. On Is Genesis History's YouTube channel, they actually have several videos where Del Tackett interviews Stephen Boyd, and this is the guy that Dr. Kelly is actually talking about a little bit in the chapter. Stephen Boyd has been studying the differences between prose and narrative and poetry. So he knows the Hebrew language very well, and he's done studies on what are the specific features of each genre. So there is poetry in the Bible, we know that. But what does poetry look like compared to narrative, and how can you tell the difference? And he actually did a statistical analysis of it, and he came to the conclusion that Genesis has the marks of narrative. It does not have the marks of poetry. Poetry has things like parallelism, and there's the parallel structure to it, and it's non-linear, whereas history, narrative, is more linear, and that's what we see in Genesis. So another proof that Dr. Kelly, in addition to the work that Stephen Boyd has done, is he looks at how the New Testament actually, how it uses the Old Testament and how it uses the book of Genesis. In the New Testament, in the Gospels, we see Jesus treating Adam and Eve and Noah and Abraham as real historical figures. There's no sense at all in the New Testament of Jesus or the apostles or the other writers of the New Testament, Paul or anyone, treating Adam and Eve, Noah, Abraham, Moses, any of these guys as mythological or somehow not real historical figures. So that's a compelling reason to take Genesis as history. And so that's the first question that he addresses, and it's an important question because whether you're studying it yourself or you're teaching Genesis or you're preaching Genesis, either way you need to know what genre of literature you're dealing with to rightly teach it, to rightly understand it. The second question Dr. Kelly addresses is just the outline. What does the outline of Genesis look like? And so it's pretty basic. Genesis 1 through chapter 2, verse 3 is the creation story. And it's wide. It's the creation of the whole world. It's the creation of, like 1:1 says, the heavens and the earth. And then Genesis 2:4 through chapter 3, verse 24 is a bridge from that creation narrative to the rest of the story of the Bible, which is the larger redemptive history that's found in Scripture. So Genesis 2:4 through 3:24 is like this bridge that's taking you from this grand creation narrative. And I believe Dr. Kelly would admit and would understand that there is exalted prose in Genesis, especially Genesis 1. It's exalted prose, but it's prose nonetheless. It's narrative. So we're not to understand Genesis as a mythological story, like any of the other ancient civilizations had. This is different, and it has the marks of narrative. So I hope, even if you're not following along in the book, that you'll check out these videos as I work my way through Kelly's book. I'm really excited. I'm loving every chapter that I'm reading in it, and I'm learning a lot, and I'm more and more convinced that the correct way to interpret Scripture is exactly how it says. What happened the way it says. There's no need to interpret it in a way that would insert modern cosmology into the text to try to make the text come, basically make the text come to say something it wasn't intended to say. So this is important. This is important for me personally, as I've wrestled with this issue. And as I've told you guys, I started out as a young earth creationist when I became a Christian. And over time in my 20s, I started thinking, well, maybe I got this wrong. Maybe these days are supposed to be long ages. And that would help kind of bring the Bible and science together in a way that was satisfying. But in 2017, as I said, I watched Is Genesis History, and that got me thinking. And over the last 3 years, I've been just watching videos of Del Tackett discussing this movie that was so pivotal in helping me to rethink my position on this. So I encourage you, continue watching the videos I post, and I'll walk you through Kelly's arguments. And I think they're good arguments. I think they're pretty solid. And I think this is a book that should be on every person's shelf that wants to know the reasons for believing that God created the heavens and the earth in 6 literal 24-hour days. So stay tuned. I'll be posting more of these, and you guys have a good week. God bless you.